Let's get on to Tetsuo's topic.
Well, today is we record on Thursdays, and so this Thursday, I'm sure everybody who plays Destiny is well aware, they did the first gameplay reveal for Destiny 2. It was about an hour long. They had some like pre-show stuff, but there was a lot of information they gave us. They showed us a lot of things. There's some sizable changes happening. And I think most of them are for the best. I didn't really see anything that I was put off about. And as far as some of the changes that they're doing to the mechanics, to the story, I feel like they've looked at what the player base has complained about in Destiny 1, and they're addressing those issues. I feel.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I've seen a lot of people complain it's too much the same, but I don't know.
That's the stuff I saw.
Well, but I mean, but it's.
I don't know.
I guess
People
the thing too is it's not a reboot.
Why is this the same game?
But I think the other thing is like you got to remember this is not a reboot. This is not L5R. This is a sequel. So
Yeah. Oh, I don't have any complaints.
I know. Yeah. No, I know you. I know you're on board. I'm not explaining to you specifically.
Explain to me, because I don't know anything about Destiny. So what is Destiny 2?
Okay, so Destiny 2 is a sequel. It is Chapter 2 of the story of the Guardians, the protectors of humanity on Earth after the Traveler came, bestowed light upon us, and there was a technology explosion. People were able to develop essentially space magic from this giant orb, and then after a few centuries of this, the darkness came. Different races came to Earth to either destroy the light or to steal it for themselves.
Alright, what kind of game is it?
Destiny 1, an MMO first-person shooter, technically speaking.
Yeah, MMO-ish.
MMO-ish.
Massively multiplayer first-person shooter, basically.
Yeah, it's MMO in the sense that there is a lot of people playing it at any given time. It's not MMO in the sense of your traditional MMORPGs. It does have some RPG aspects to it, but I wouldn't call it abilities. You can choose which abilities you want to use when you level up. There's classes and subclasses.
They have
races
roles
that
and
don't
stuff,
mean
right?
anything.
Say again?
Do they have roles and your classes and all that good stuff? Or their builds?
Yeah,
sort of.
There are builds. Like, if you're running a raid, people will be like, you should have, like, these classes running this build and stuff. But it's not the traditional 3 tank, healer, and DPS.
Gotcha.
In very, very, very broad sweeps, if you're looking at just the abilities, the Titan is kind of your tank. The 3 quote-unquote stats that they do have are armor, agility, and recovery. Recovery is how fast your shields come back. Are kind of your tanks. They tend to excel in armor. Your hunter is a little bit more your roguelike. Agility's where they're at. They may not have the armor to soak the damage, but they're going to try to just GTFO anyway. And then warlocks
are faster though.
Yeah, Titans technically are faster. Warlocks technically can get more armor. So, but again, it goes back to those optimized.
Well, not anymore. They used to, but they fixed that a while ago.
I don't play Titan in Warlock. I am a hunter main, and my clanmates make plenty fun of me for playing the hunter.
Now you get to be a pole dancer.
It's true. Get to swing my pole. Anyway, in this, within each class, you have 3 major elements. You have solar, which is fire, arc, which is electricity, and void, which is kind of think void from L5R or any other just esoteric energy, the darkness between stars, however you want to describe it. Subclass that focuses on one of those 3 elements. And so, based off of those subclasses, and then it is a loot game, so you usually go through and you're killing everything to see what loot you can get to get better loot, so that way you can kill bigger things to get better loot to kill bigger things, etc., etc.
All about the progression.
Exactly. I mean, what game isn't? What guns you're using and what subclasses you have. You have the different builds. So again, you can easily build a hunter who is all around being a tank. You can easily build a Titan who's more about DPS, etc., etc.
It's just more of the skills and stuff you take, or what stats you prioritize.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And part of it too is that all of the guns are available to all types. Because you're a Titan doesn't mean you're locked into assault rifles. You can run around with a sniper rifle if you want. Well, that's a different gun class, but you're not locked into gun type or weapon type, so to say. You can use whatever you want, which again aids in that whole there isn't necessarily a hard and fast roles. where more comes into play, they do have raids for end game content, and so you might have somebody, you'll have, hey, who wants to spec out for crowd control? Who wants to spec out for DPS? Who wants to be our threat pool? Et cetera, et cetera.
So what's Destiny 2 doing that's different from 1?
Well, so they're adding lots of things. First and foremost, cosmetically, they are adding new guns. They're adding new armor, not only in ability but also in look, which is something you'd expect. New ships and sparrows, which I thought that was interesting. So to explain ships and sparrows, sparrows are a land speeder essentially to help you get around on the ground really fast, because some of the areas can be pretty big. They can be close to not quite open world, but sort of open world. But when you go, so there's a few different planets you can go to. And so whenever you're transferring planets, you would then go to a loading screen that would show you in whatever ship you're wanting to pilot in. So there's a little bit of customization of the loading screen. But one of the changes that they're doing, and this is the first change that I was really happy about, is that you now no longer are going to have to go to orbit in order to change what planet you're on. Because it used to be you would go to orbit, and then you'd have to enter in and then choose what activity you'd want, and then it would load into the activity. And then when you complete that, go to orbit again before you choose your next activity. Now you can choose your activity while still on planet after completing the one you just did. You don't have to wait to load into orbit and wait for it to load up and go to this different option screen. You can just go straight to it. Some of the guns they've changed. It looks like they've added a couple new gun types. We don't 100%.
I know they've introduced grenade launcher.
Yeah, there was a grenade launcher. There was what appeared to be some SMGs. It was one used by one.
They switched up how they're doing guns.
Yeah, and so it used to be you had a primary, a special, and a heavy. So like your primaries were your assault rifles, your scout rifles, your hand cannons, that kind of stuff. Your specials were sniper rifles, fusion rifles, which essentially were like you would charge it up and then it would fire a whole bunch of bolts of plasma. And then your heavy weapons would be things like rocket launchers and giant machine guns, LMG type style machine guns. Now what they're doing,
you get a kinetic, an energy, and a power.
That was it, yeah. And so, like, you might have a assault rifle that fires bullets, and then another assault rifle that's going to fire energy. So you could be running around with 2 assault rifles if you want now, rather than, because before it was primary, so you could only carry one. Now you'll be able to wield both as you see fit, and be able to hot swap.
And then, yeah, it seems like most of the special weapons are now power weapons, fusion and sniper rifle. It doesn't mention shotguns. They didn't mention shotguns though, so I don't know if that will actually be a power weapon or just a normal weapon.
Yeah. Well, and I think part of the kinetic and energy stuff, I think, comes down to I can imagine.
Well, they had energy versions of every gun before, or like every type of gun before. So that's right. All it is, I think.
In the original game, you actually had different gun manufacturers. So you would have like Amalon and Hake and Suros, and it was really in depth how they designed the guns.
For the most part, it was just how they looked before. Although in year 2, they started adding more.
Well, but Amalon almost always used energy, at least around their projectiles, for a while. I could imagine that factoring into what guns are kinetic and what guns are going to be energy. It may not be the same companies that we.
Sure.
I can see it factoring in.
Right. Originally I was just talking about types of weapons, because I don't know if shotgun's going to be a power or not.
Well, and I was going to say it'd either be power or kinetic, because I don't quite know how you're going to do an energy shotgun. Although,
I mean, there are
that would be cool.
Most shotguns, or I think all shotguns are energy, or they all have an energy type associated with them. It's like all special.
No, I thought energy was implying that it was like laser, like optical weapon versus.
I think it's just weapon. That it has an energy type of damage modifier.
Oh. Well, I guess that's one of the things we'll see, because they didn't clarify. They didn't go into that.
But because after year 2, they basically got rid of all elemental primaries. So now now you can have them again. Is basically what I got out of it.
That'd be cool. I think I like that more. Hopefully that is what they did. One of the other things that everybody have been really excited to hear about, and Mal kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, they revealed the 3 new subclasses or 3 of the new subclasses. Warlock is getting a solar subclass called the Dawnblade. It summons a flaming sword that when they swing it, it like flashes.
Yeah, it kind of gives them wings so they can fly. They can kind of like almost fly around, like big jumps or something.
Yeah, and then they can like slash from a distance. Think Break from Cloud Strife. Wasn't there one like? There's one.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
There's one that shoots out energy.
Yeah, similar to that. Getting a void-based one called the Sentinel.
Yeah.
And he runs around with the void shield.
Titans are now Captain America.
Yeah, that was very much the feel I got. It looked really interesting, and so. In the raids, they would have different mechanics that they would introduce, and one of them was this Aegis shield in the Vault of Glass, the first raid. And I'm wondering if they're going to incorporate parts of the Aegis shield into the Sentinel.
Yeah, I think they said it can be used for melee defense or range throw.
Yeah, so that'd be interesting. And then the Hunter is getting an arc style called the Arc Strider, which gives them a lightning staff that they get to run around and smack people with.
Yeah, and then everyone has now determined that their name is now, because it used to be they were lightning dancers, so now they're pole dancers.
Blade dancer.
Or blade dancers, right, yeah. So now they're pole dancers.
I did find it interesting how all three of the new subclasses are melee oriented.
Well, I mean, you have a sword,
range.
but you shoot out, like, almost all the stuff they showed were shooting out stuff.
Right. Well, and then like we know that the shield can be used at range, and we saw too the staff being hit on the ground and sending out an electrical shockwave.
Yeah, I think they've. I think I also saw based on some other stuff because they let people go and play it that were local. I think all supers now are just going to be a roaming super with some utility. Because now Fist of Havoc is a roaming super that lets you do multiple jumps. Before it was just you did one big jump, shot out a shockwave. Now you get to run around and do a couple, I guess.
I'm hoping that they toned it down in that case because
I'm sure they have.
Yeah, because the balance on that feels like that might be.
Yeah, I'm sure they're going to balance it.
Now, what do you mean by roaming super? I mean, I know what you mean.
Roaming super is just when you can move around and use your super, as opposed to before Warlocks could shoot off one ball and then Titans could do one jump. Now, whatever their supers are going to be will allow them to actually move around and probably get more than one possible area kill. Similar
to the golden gun for the.
I mean, people were saying that the new Dawn blade is basically the fire subclass for Titan because they just threw hammers and could swing them, but for the most part, you just threw them.
But all three of them look interesting. All three of them look fun.
They redid the UI. It looks nice. The whole game looks pretty.
Yeah. The UI, everything looks like it's in the same place, but I like what they've done with it. Like, they look just different enough where you feel like you're playing something shiny and new. It's still familiar. Everything's still where you're used to them to be, I guess.
Yeah.
So does it feel more like an expansion or like an actual sequel to you guys? Like, are they doing enough different, or is it very the same?
They haven't really shown quite enough, I think, to make that call.
Yeah.
Well, the feel that I got, and I know, Obs, you're not really big on first-person shooters, but
I'd like to play them, I just can't.
Yeah. So far, the feel that I've gotten is very similar to Halo 1 to Halo 2, or 2 to 3, or 3 to 4, etc., where they kind of upgrade some stuff, but it's still the core basic gameplay, it's just a further story. They
really refined the game, I think.
Yeah.
And they're going more. They're doing the story better, I think, is their goal. Because Day 1 Destiny is considered to have a crap story, basically, and now they're going further in on it with more cinematics and just a bigger focus on storytelling.
I think they really learned first from House of Wolves, and then The Taken King. Like, that was when they started really doing cinematics and character interactions on the missions.
Yeah. They learned that people like Nathan Fillion. So they're giving you more Nathan Fillion.
That's definitely true. Nathan Fillion plays the head hunter in the Vanguard. The Vanguard is the collective guardian, and he is like the head of the hunters. He's Nathan Fillion. It's pretty much if you were to take Malcolm Reynolds, throw him in a robot suit, and that's who he is. They're very much playing. Yeah, it works. I mean, it works well, but. Yeah,
I don't think you mentioned, but the story is that previously humanity was all holed up in one last city, the last city on Earth, and one of the aliens, the Cabal, have showed up at the start of Destiny 2 and basically destroy all that. And humanity is really on life support now, and the big three, the leaders of the Vanguard are now have scattered across the solar system, and
So
that's
you're
kind of a
going
big part of the story. Is I think getting them back.
Yep. You actually do get to start off playing as the attack on the
Yeah, they showed off the
last
first
city
part
and
of the first mission.
Yeah, so that looked really interesting. I was really happy to see that Sweeperbot was still there.
Then he gets wrecked. That's my character's sole goal is to avenge Sweeperbot.
So they did show 2 new Cabal subtypes as well. They showed the dogs, and I think they called them gladiators.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
These
gladiators.
the enemies.
They're a race of war-focused, like giant rhino toads, is what I think
Turtles.
call them. Or rhino turtles. But they're huge. They one of the things that's said about them is just that they have no problem blowing up moons and planets for just being in their way. To give you an idea of their mentality.
I guess they're probably based on Romans. I guess I don't know. Like they basically want to go out and conquer and grow their empire. They're not allowed. The people they send out aren't allowed to come back unless they win.
Yeah. As I said, we saw the dogs, and then we also saw the gladiators, which seem to be dual-wielding, like, giant butcher knife swords looking things. So that's interesting, because they're, for the most part, they're a very based army. So for them to have this sudden melee-based
Yeah, I think they had to expand since they're going to take the main role of the story, probably.
Yeah.
Since they were so little of them was done with the first game, all the expansions were of the other races, basically.
But then, so like you were saying, the way that they described it is we're gonna go to the edge of the solar system and back in the story before, just the basic game.
One of the planetoids is in between, what is it, Neptune and Pluto?
Yeah, something like that. So we're gonna go to the planetoid, what was it called, like Nessus or something like that?
Yeah.
It's gonna be mostly Vex enemies, again, one of the other armies. The Vex
time-traveling robot.
Yeah, they're literally time-traveling robots. They have ontological weaponry. So the Vex are really interesting in story, but they kind of really stole the show, at least in vanilla Destiny, for what little story there was.
Yeah, they were definitely the main focus, because they were leading up to the first raid, which was about
exactly.
them.
And then so after that we got Fallen at one point were a chosen race of the Traveler before the Traveler came to humanity, and then the Traveler just left them. And so they're kind of fighting humans to take back the Traveler, because they're like, that's ours, and even though it left us, like, we want it still. Because the Traveler is sentient, even though it's this giant orb, it's still this sentient being, I guess, entity. And then we had the Hive. The Hive were the most in-depth story at the moment, but it's kind of hard to just basically describe them.
Sort of.
Yeah. But they, for the most part, are... I don't really know how exactly to describe them in a short sentence.
They're just evil.
Yeah.
Mindless, kind of. Or at least they come across like their base enemies are kind of almost like zombie types, at least like mentality. They don't look like it necessarily.
If you're familiar
with
if you're familiar with Warhammer 40k, their very basic units are very similar to Gene Stealers in look and how they rush at you with giant claws. I feel like, anyway. I might be a little bit wrong, but then the Cabal now are on stage, and so what's happening is not only are they destroying the tower, but they're stealing the Traveler, because this new big bad, his name is Gaul, believes that the Cabal should be the chosen of the Traveler. We never really knew why the Cabal were here, so now that we know that they too are wanting to take the Traveler, but they've never been chosen by the Traveler ever, as opposed to the way the Fallen at one point were. Other big changes, cut down to 4v4 across all play modes, so no more of the 6v6 maps. I
hope we get some 8v8.
Yeah, I do too.
We'll see.
Also said that there's a new mode called Countdown, which is going to be an attack-defend mode. I'm guessing kind of playing off the success of Overwatch's version of it.
Probably.
Yeah. I mean, I know it exists elsewhere, but they probably want something that's
there's
able
only
to
so many
compete
modes
with Overwatch specifically. Exactly. I mean, the last one that they added, Rift, was interesting.
No, Supremacy. That was kill confirmed from Call of Duty, basically.
Rift felt a little different, though.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying the last added one.
Yeah, my point was more just saying that Rift was more original, but everything else is, stuff you've seen before.
Well, I mean, it was kind of just like What was the game? They had one in Halo that was kind of like it. You just carried a ball to a point, basically.
All right. Clans are now officially supported in game. It used to be you could make a clan, but it didn't do much besides pretty much give you a little mark on your.
It was an extra friendly list, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. But now what it's going to do, you're going to be able to connect with your friends in game. They're going to be able to make custom banners. They were talking about there will be rewards for doing things that will be shared
really
across.
Going in on the community aspect in Destiny 2 as well is a big push.
Yeah, and it looks like they're doing it right too. Like, because before, one of the big problems was if you didn't have friends to play with in some of the end game content, because they always said, that the end game content was so difficult, you really needed a fire team that was going to be good communication and all that.
Or they didn't want people just getting really angry at the other randos they paired up with after spending 3 hours on a raid or whatever.
Right. But what that ended up doing was if you wanted to do these things and you didn't have the friends to play it, or, you guys were having difficulty getting together at the same time, or whatever, you ended up having to go to like websites and, say, hey, I'm going to be on at this time. Does anybody want to play? And you had to use a lot of third-party websites, and players didn't really like that. So it was one of the big things that they constantly clamored for was matchmaking within raids. So now they've introduced what's called guided games. And what it does is that the three big end game content areas, raids, the Nightfalls, and which were missions that were really difficult, and the Trials of Osiris, which was the highly, highly competitive PvP mode. Now you can jump on there, and if you don't have a full fire team, it'll find a clan who has.
You can browse clans and choose to.
Yeah, and
pair up with these guys or something.
Right, and so then you could now play, with these people who are matched up with the same amount. And who knows, maybe you'll end up joining that clan later, or whatever the case is. Because it was something that it kind of needed, but like a lot
only 50% of people ever actually did any of the end game like raids, and
they just mentioned raids.
Yeah,
but,
so they want to make that more available to everyone, obviously.
So introducing this guided games, I think, is a good kind of middle ground, because it still allows you, the way that they worded it, and I might be wrong, maybe I am, but the way that they worded it, it made it sound like you could try to do raids as only 4 of you, or you can go into it as guided games to match up with people to get your full 6-man fire team.
Well, I'm sure you could go with however many you want.
Yeah.
You could go with 1, I'm sure, and they'll probably one of the scenarios where you have 5 of your people together. So I think 6-man fire teams is still a thing, but
regardless, it's something that's definitely been asked for by the community multiple times, and the fact that they're now putting it in there is good. Let's see. What else am I missing? And as far as new content officially goes, I think that for the most part, that's it. Oh, no, patrols. There's more to do in them. Patrols were kind of your open world aspect of the MMO. You could go out and just run around and kill things, or pick up side missions from these patrol beacons here and there. But there wasn't a whole heck of a lot of stuff to do whenever you went on patrols. And now they're introducing, in addition to those, things that they're calling adventures, treasure maps, and lost sectors. Adventures are more side mission-y. You'll see people and they might need help defending a tower or a town or something.
Yeah, now they have actual NPCs around the
world itself.
Yeah, the world where you go and do these fight people. Before you didn't have that. You only had NPCs in your social hubs. So that's a nice change.
And then too, it looks like they're going to be fighting with you, which is also nice. Kind of going back to Halo, back when you had the Marines. I'm sure to a degree they're going to be just as useful as the Marines were. Still, it's nice. It's nice to have more bodies on the field, I guess. Yeah. So the adventures, you had the treasure maps, which are going to be they're going to give you clues to go to a step to a step to a step, and eventually you'll find a boss. When you beat him, you'll get a key to a giant treasure cache. So that sounds fun. And then lost sectors are kind of, I don't know. The way that they described it made me think of You know how in open world games sometimes they'll give you incentives to explore the map more and like color in all the gray areas?
Yep, Pathfinder or not Pathfinder. What was it? Guild Wars. Yes, that's the MMO, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
I mean,
Guild Wars 2 had like exploration type missions.
Yeah. Okay. So this is going to fill that role. So it like you get bonuses for going and finding these hidden areas. With treasure and loot and all kinds of goodies. And that's all of the stuff that they really gave us that's new, besides letting us see the myriad of new designs for the guns and armor and stuff, which for the most part, the aesthetic looked really good. Like, I am digging the aesthetic. One of the guns, because Mao, I think you said you were just listening to it, right? You didn't get to really watch it?
On and off.
Okay. So one of the guns that they showed, do you remember in the Rise of Iron, the strike where there's the ogre who's being experimented on by the Fallen? So remember the gun that the boss has?
Yeah.
And do you remember the whole... So there was early on in Rise of Iron's life, data miners found for that gun, but the gun never made its way into the game for players. Well, it looked like there was a player running with that gun. The gun definitely looked like it.
It just kind of fired. It was like a Gatling gun type fire almost.
Yeah, but it was energy from the ogre's eyes. But that was interesting. I saw that and I was like, oh, cool. I hope that it is that, because I feel like that'd be fun to play with and a nice tie back to the first game.
All this is
but
so
overall,
over my
the
head.
aesthetic.
Yeah, I liked everything I saw. It looks like fun. Beta still only said summer. They didn't give a date on it, unfortunately, but I'll probably pre-order it and get in the beta.
Yep. So, and that was where I was going to go to wrap this up. Destiny 2 goes live September 8th. If you pre-order now, you get instant access to the beta. There is going to be people who get into it without pre-ordering, similar to how other games do it. But I think it's all based off of how many beta applicants they get just from pre-orders, which I imagine is going to be a large number, at least from the old players.
What? Destiny, isn't that game dead? I think
hear that all the time.
Yeah, the stream peaked at, I think, 426,000 viewers, or around there.
Oh, wow. That's a lot less than I was thinking it was going to be.
500,000 is not good enough?
Well, but I don't know. I was expecting...
That's a lot of viewers for Twitch.
Yeah, I guess it is.
Yeah, big tournaments only get like 100K. Street Fighter and stuff. I don't know about like CS:GO
it's
or
a lot of people.
other stuff.
Yeah, I guess it really is. I don't know. For some reason in my head I was thinking it was going to be bigger, but then again I also am really bad at estimating things, which this falls under that, so you can just discount everything I just said. It's okay. 2 is going to be available on PC. It used to just be on PS4 and Xbox One, and PS3 and Xbox 360. Now it's going to be on PC. They are still keeping to, there's going to be PlayStation 4 exclusives, so PS4 gets things a few months before everybody else.
And I play on PS4.
I don't know. I get why they're doing it.
Yeah, I get that it doesn't exist. Like the things you get only exist because PlayStation's paying for them, but it still like sucks to keep them for a year separate or whatever.
It's an unfair thing, but again too, like a lot of it, nothing's really necessarily like game breaking in that regard. Most of it is there's a couple guns, but most of it's like maps and stuff. But it's not fair. Exactly.
You don't like to not be able to get certain things. Like you're the most collector out of all of us, I think.
I very much am. I
denied that.
Trying to finish my Sparrow collection before Destiny 2 drops, just because.
Yeah, they blow up your vault, so you don't get to keep any of it.
I said just because. I didn't say it made sense. I will say this. I'm very sad that all my ships are going to go. Mal can tell you, the amount of time, effort, and glimmer, the in-game currency, that I put towards ships, I am going to be very sad to see my collection of ships go away. But anyway, it's now on PC. It's on PC because of a partnership with Blizzard, It will be available exclusively through Battle.net, Blizzard's own client. So it's not going to be in Steam. It's not going to be on Origin. It's not going to be on anything else.
Activision owns Bungie and Battle.net, so
yeah. It definitely makes sense. It's just I don't know. I find it interesting because like I could see it being on there and then also other places, but for it to only be on there. But at the same time, it makes sense. I'm not a big PC gamer, so maybe I'm just looking at it as a dirty console player. So I'll definitely be playing it on PS4. They are also going to be releasing multiple editions, as is the norm these days. It's going to be $60. They're offering an expansion pass, which is kind of like a season pass, but I think Destiny's always been much more, I think, on point about only having so many expansions in a go, and they've all been very quality. I don't think there's been any that haven't, because they're usually substantial like story expansions.
And the first House of Wolves was really lacking.
Well, yeah, it was, but at the same time, it didn't even
add a raid like the others.
Yeah, but it did add the boss, not boss, Prison of Elders, whatever you want to call that, arena style combat. I thought that was fun.
It was fun. I just don't think it was quite up to the level.
But the way that they're talking about it, because it's only the expansion pass only covers expansions 1 and 2. But the way that it was talking about it in the research I did, it looks like it's going to be the expansions are going to be on the level of Rise of Iron and Taken King.
Yeah, those are the good ones. So
as opposed to the 2 smaller ones that we got in year 1. You can also buy the game and the expansion pass together for $90, which is cheaper than the $95 if you bought the expansion separate. So it's only $5 cheaper.
Yeah,
it's
basically
a deal.
par for the course these days.
Yeah, it's a deal, but it's kind of like, So, if you decide to reserve your mind and do it later, you're not spending that much more by not buying it bundled. And then they have 3 of the, special editions: the Digital Deluxe, the Limited, and the Collectors. With premium digital content, you'll get an extra legendary sword, a legendary emote, and a Cabal Empire-themed emblem for your nameplate. So, you're paying that's $100. So you're paying an extra $40. Well, it also comes with the expansions, the expansion pass. So I guess you're paying an extra $10 to get the sword, the emote, and the emblem. Next level up is the limited edition, and it gives you all of that plus a steelbook case and a Cabal-themed collector's box. But I'm assuming it's going to be much more limited in number because it's going to be a physical copy as opposed to the digital. I think is where the difference is going there. And then the big one's the collector's edition. It's $250, but you're going to get plus a bag that fits a 15-inch laptop, and then what's called a Frontier Kit, which looks really interesting. It's going to have a solar panel USB charger, a solar blanket, and paracord. But I'm probably just going to get the standard. That's usually the way I get my games. So